Hello out there, awesome radio family. Thank you for joining us on 107.5 FM and 1570 AM WECU every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is. Merry Christmas Eve! Woo! My favorite time of the year. Are you ready to learn, engage, and inspire? If so, welcome to the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show. I'm your host for the next 50 minutes, Tonitia Langley, education enthusiast, thought leader, and founder, education coach, and consultant. I'm so excited to partner with you and be dedicated to the heart of any community, and that's education. I'm the host, but you and the community mean the most. I would love for you to share your suggestions of what you would love to get more information related to K-12 education. So if you have something, please email us at let's talk K12education at gmail.com. We are ringing in the holiday spirit, celebrating the most wonderful time of the year here at the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show. The K-12 winter break with a new year is upon us. We're bringing you all the insights and resources needed to make the season uplifting for everyone in our education community. Come on and partner with us as we explore how we can support and uplift our schools, families, communities, and spread joy, foster growth, and create warm, inclusive atmospheres for students and educators alike. Join us for as we share tips and spread just a little holiday cheer to make this season bright and memorable for everyone in the world of K-12 education. During this entire month on Awesome Radio WECU on the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show, leading up to Christmas Eve, we have been spreading a little Christmas cheer. We've been doing some giveaways, and we have been busy being Christmas helpers. We've been giving callers an opportunity to call into the show to shout out their favorite K-12 person, and we have also been giving away free books from some of our guests. So today is no different. So some of the ways to be an awesome radio Christmas helper and give a shout out to your favorite K-12 staff, when prompted, call into the show at 252-756-3137 and give your favorite person a Christmas season shout out to a K-12 staff. And listen, it can be a principal, teacher, bus driver, cafeteria worker, secretary, custodian, etc. Your favorite person in a K-12 setting, and we want you to tell them you wish them a Merry Christmas. And why do you wish them a Merry Christmas? Could be one day you're just having the worst day ever and go into the copier room and you have 5 minutes to get to class, the copier's jammed up, your paper is jammed up, and someone comes to your rescue. Brad, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. That copier I just felt that in my, yeah.
Those would be the days. So listen, on last week's show, we explored self-care and wellness for K-12 educators. We're kind of going to do that. And we did it last week with the self-care evangelist, Dr. Lynn Daniel, with Christmas giveaways of her books. And we provided tons of information regarding the topic. If you would like the recap of tools and resources for any of the previous Let's Talk K-12 education shows, catch us on the replay and comment #replay by heading over to Facebook, Awesome Radio 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. Look for the purple and green logo, or you can catch us on YouTube at www.youtube.com at Awesome Radio WECU. Again, look for the purple and green logo. So as a former educator and classroom teacher from a traditional public school setting and current education consultant coach, my goal is to use this platform as an unbiased show to educate and provide information as it pertains to educating our future. That is the goal of the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show, to let others know that in the challenging educational landscape, there is light that pierces the darkness, and there are educators working in the trenches, stakeholders, and educational thought leaders like myself and my guest, Brad, partnering to close the gap of the school to prison pipeline with tenacity, grit, grind while providing hope. Going to open up our show today with a thought provoker on this Christmas Eve. So it says, and today's topic is going to be about giving yourself the Christmas gift of wellness for our educators. So here's a thought provoker. The most important person in a child's education is their teacher, and a well teacher is a better teacher. Brad, what you got to say about that before I introduce you to our guests, before I introduce you to our community today?
What don't I have to say about that? All right, I'm going to keep it tight, but it made me think immediately of this quote from Parker Palmer. And he essentially says in his book, The Courage to Teach, like, we teach who we are.
Yes.
And every time that we care for ourselves, that is what we actually teach children. Every time that we do not care for ourselves, that's what we're teaching children. There's this idea of what's the hidden curriculum in a school. What is it? Yeah. What is it that we accidentally teach? Usually unconsciously, like by accident. What's on the wall? What's the feeling? What's the energy that's in the room? We teach that every time that we show up. And so when we pause to care for ourselves, especially for our teachers and for our educators, we actually teach our children to care about themselves too. And I think that's one of the hardest things that we forget as people who are servant, led people, is that we want to put everyone else first. And it turns out when we do that, we then make kids think that that's the only way to live. And so when we take care of ourselves, we take care of our children. So I really appreciate that.
Go, Brad. Go, Brad. Ed snaps for you on this Christmas Eve. So listen, get ready to bring up something that's probably one of your favorite topics too. So by me being a wife, a former middle school teacher and grandmother to 8 school-age grandchildren, and currently an education consultant and coach, I recognize the importance of the ability to have critical thinking skills. And Brad, you already know that is one mamma jamma to teach in our schools, especially in some of the schools that you and I have experience in. So I came up with this "How is your brain game" segment. And sometimes it's maybe with riddles, sometimes it may be with dad jokes. Today, because it's Christmas Eve, I'm going to do both. So here is a joke for today, and I'm going to see if you can get it, Brad. And yes, unapologetically, unshamelessly, it is a dad joke. Okay. So here we go. Why did the math book look sad?
I got nothing.
You got nothing on this Christmas Eve. Because it had too many problems, just like an overworked teacher. But I know, Brett. I told you it was a dad joke.
You laugh, then you cry. It's a little bit of both in one.
A little bit of both. So here is a brain teaser too for our critical thinking skills for our families on this Christmas Eve. So a teacher asked her students to find a word that starts with an E, has only one letter in it, and is essential for communication. What is it? An envelope. That standardized test taken, right? So again, if you have brain teasers for How is your brain game segment, and you would like to have them shared on this show, email us at letstalk-k12education@gmail.com. So I have brought him into my dad jokes. He has given his perspective. Now, let me introduce to you my awesome and talented guests that will add great information, tools, and resources for our topic on Let's Talk K-12 Education as a Christmas helper by blessing our listening audience today. He is none other than Brad White. Brad White is my guest today. He is a lifelong educator who traces the roots of his passion for education from his grandparents. His grandfather, Weston, attended school through 7th grade before being put to work on the farm. Sounds familiar. His grandmother, Sylvia, was a teacher who got her bachelor's degree in the 1940s and who was also one of the first 5 women officers to serve in the U.S. military. They each instilled an appreciation for the importance of education in him. Brad is a father first. He has 2 school-age sons who attend Minnesota public schools. After teaching elementary schools for 6 years in Minnesota and Japan, go Brad, Brad founded 2 public charter schools in Denver, Colorado. Both went on to become national blue ribbon schools. Come through, Brad White. Come through. You're making me excited on this Christmas Eve. Recognizing their school successes, closing the achievement gap between kids based on race and family income status. Brad is now a full-time educational consultant who provides executive coaching and school system transformation support to ensure as many schools as possible achieve breakthrough results. Mr. Brad White, with your bad self, but bad in a good way.
Man, this is the most fun I've had all day. I had call after call today with all these stressed out teachers and principals, and it was such it's a blessing to be a part of their days, and I love the job. And also, I needed this too. Like, you're already giving me the energy that is the topic of our discussion today. So like with you and your bad self too. So thank you, Tonitia.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying yes to the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show. And I have to let our awesome radio viewing and listening audience know that Brad said yes and he made the time. Okay. People that are, I love people on my show who are passionate and walking in their purpose. And Brad is extremely busy. I talked with his assistant and he made the time to be here on this show today. So I'm so excited on this Christmas Eve. You talking about having a busy day. I've been rolling since I've been home today. So having the chance to be able to do this with you, with someone with those accolades and those contributions to our education system just makes my heart boil over for Christmas Eve. And with that being said, that kind of drives us right into giving our radio audience time to be Christmas helper opportunities. So we want you to call into the show right now at 252-756-3137. And we want you to give a Christmas season shout out to a K-12 staff, principal, teacher, bus driver, cafeteria worker, secretary, custodian, whoever has did something to make your day a little brighter. Give them a Christmas shout out and tell them why you want to wish them a Merry Christmas. So this is where we come to the guest chime and check in Christmas Eve edition, Brad. I want you to share a personal and or professional Christmas favorite of yours. You can share one or you can share both.
Yeah, I got one. So it is every time that we crack open this one box of ornaments. So our family has, if you can't tell from the sweater I'm wearing, so if you're just listening to the show, I'm telling you, you're missing out. If you are watching this, you're able to see this absurd sweater I have on right now that says not just Feliz Navidad, but it says Feliz Navidad. We love in our house just being goofballs. These are my actual dogs that are on the sweater. My family knows my heart. They know that I love being a goofball. I take my work so seriously. I have the opportunity to walk in my purpose, to walk with kids and families and teachers. It is a blessing to be in the career that I'm in. I love it. And I do not take myself seriously at all. And I will wear a Feliz Navidad sweater left and right. So
I love it.
If you look at our Christmas tree, you'll see the same. You'll see these beautiful, meaningful pieces, but you'll also see a big old piece of white bread sitting on the top of it. And it's this funny, weird tradition from our little family. So we lived in Tokyo, Japan, like you mentioned, for 4 years and taught in a school there. There are some bizarre things in Tokyo, right? So we're all over seeing things. And I see this giant sponge made ornament in a store called Don Quixote of all names in Japan. I got it right on the spot, and we've now kept it for a little over 15 years.
Wow.
It's the first ornament we put on the tree. It looks just like a big old slice of bread. So you've got this beautiful tree with all these special ornaments and a big old slice of bread right on top. And every guest, every guest to our house walks in and just says, "What's up with the bread?"
What is that?
So it's one of our bizarre traditions, but the kids they've started telling like stories. So we'll open it up and they'll unbox it and talk about the legend of the bread. And it's this bizarre family tradition that we've just started because I think we want to play, we want to have some fun. And there's other traditions, you know, that are very meaningful. The bread is one of the ones that cracks us up every year. So there's one of our stories from our white family Christmas.
I love it, Brad. I love it. So let me give you one from the Langleys. So Christmas Eve, and we've probably been doing this tradition probably over 2 decades. It started off being a fish fry. Christmas Eve with our children, my cousin, her husband and children, and now has evolved where it's me, my husband, my cousin, her children, and my grandchildren and children, her grandchildren and children, and it's just growing. And we toast to eggnog and cider, and we say what we're thankful for the year, and we listen to music. And if we have a lot of gifts, we open up the gifts, and we play games, and I'm just looking forward to it for Christmas Eve. I love it. It's one of our most treasured, valued times of the year. So thank you for sharing. And I love to always hear the non-traditional types of traditions. Because it always feels so inclusive when people are sharing something that's very different than, you know, of what you just shared, because it's educational too. So thank you for sharing that, Brad. We've already did so much, haven't gotten into any of the topic. So let me just do this and then get ready to take us into break. We got about 3 minutes. So today's topic of exploration with Brad White and myself on this Christmas Eve is give yourself the Christmas gift of wellness as an educator. And our objective is to inspire and empower educators to prioritize their well-being during the holiday season by providing practical self-care strategies, stress management techniques, and insights on how personal wellness positively impacts their effectiveness, that word, in the classroom and their overall quality of life. This show will emphasize the importance of viewing wellness as a gift, not only to themselves, but also to their students, fostering a healthier, more balanced educational environment. Now, I know that we've had so much fun already, Brad, but we literally got about 2 minutes before we have to go into our station break. Is there anything you kind of want to go ahead and get started on this side of our station break regarding our topic today? If so, go ahead and take them to school and get started.
Yes, ma'am. Let's do it. All right. So when I think about, let's do the overview and then let's come back and we'll break it down. Okay. So with this Christmas theme that we've got. So tomorrow being Christmas, one, if you celebrate, Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Number two, I brought up not the 12 days of Christmas, but these 12 gifts that you can give yourself as an educator. And so let me just list out those 12 and then we'll get back and why don't we break it down?
Okay. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, you're a pro at this. I can tell.
I'm ready.
As I cannot wait to hear them. I'm so excited. I don't know who's more excited, them or me. So as we are, Brad just kind of gave a rough overview before our station break. Giving yourself the Christmas gift of wellness as an educator. And I can't wait on the other side of the break to get started. But before we get to break, here's another opportunity to spread some Christmas Eve cheer. So we're going to want you to call into the show right now at 252-756-3137. And what do we want you to do on this Christmas Eve? We want you to give a Christmas season shout out to a K-12 staff member, principal, teacher, bus driver, cafeteria worker, secretary, and custodian. Brad, me and you know, and I've talked about it with other guests, teachers, we do the curriculum, but the people that really run the school are your custodians, your bus drivers, and of course, the people in the front office. And call into the show again at 252-756-3137 and tell them you wish them a Merry Christmas because of whatever they've done to help make your life brighter. Whatever this educator has done, you're going to go ahead and give them an early Christmas gift, the gift of wellness. But before we do that, Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show on Awesome Radio WECU 107.5 and 1570 AM, where we make K-12 education everyone's business while taking pride in being Christmas helpers. We'll be right back after this short message. Welcome back to Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. You can find us here talking about all things education every Tuesday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Let's Talk K-12 Education. You can find us on Facebook by Awesome Radio 107.5 FM and 1570 AM, looking for the purple and green logo. You can find us on YouTube, www.youtube.com at Awesome Radio WECU. Again, look for the purple and green logo. If you have some suggestions for us on the show, by all means, email us at Let's Talk K-12 Education at gmail.com with your topics. We had so much fun during the first segment. I didn't even give my man Brad hardly any time to develop his topic today, and give yourself the Christmas gift of wellness as an educator. So without further ado, we got about 8 minutes, Mr. White. Go ahead and unpack those 12 tips that you was going to give us. So take them to school.
You said 8 hours, right? Because I'm ready to talk about this day and night.
We could really do one for 8 hours on this topic, for real though.
The amount of time that we need to be rededicating to educator wellness versus what we usually put into it, we should be spending 8 hours on it. But we're gonna be tight with our time. So if you're listening and you've got a pen and paper handy, I'm going to list out 12 things, about 1 or 2 words for each. You can jot these down and then you can go back to it. One of the things that I coach a lot on is just the difference between a lot of folks moving from idea to execution is just simply, it's the person who actually did the thing. So I don't want you to just hear this and go, man, what a great idea. What a lovely conversation. I want to go hang out with those two. You probably should, because we're going to have a good time.
Yes.
But what I want to recommend is that you actually take action on at least one of these things. And if you act on 1 or 2 or 3, you will be more well. And we want that for you. We want that for your children. So grab your pen and paper, pull up a note on your phone. Here's the 12 gifts that I hope you can give yourself this Christmas season as an educator. So 1, mentor. 2, joy. 3, a plan. 4, reflect. 5, connect. 6, learn. 7, rest. 8, digital detox. 9, serve. 10, gratitude. 11, move. And 12, meditate or pray.
Yes.
Out of that list right there, every one of these I've gone through, but I actually want to start with a story, if that's okay. So
beautiful.
The teacher I love the most in the world, her name is Sarah Johnston, and I can't wait to send her this because she is the cooperating teacher, the mentor teacher who taught me to teach when I was still, barely had this facial hair on my face, right in college. And she taught me everything that I am, everything that I know as a new teacher. Sarah would always make me, because I was a disorganized college kid, she would make sure that when we were still using, there were no smart boards when I was teaching. We were using the old overhead transparency, right? She would make sure that before I left for the day, I had to show her all of my transparency slides that were completed and ready for the next day. And you know what was the difference between me and all of my other, students that were also in college is that night I got to go home and just be with my wife. I just got to go home and spend time with my family, rest, kick back, go on a walk with my dog. I didn't have to go home and be doing that work. And so sometimes the thing that you think you need is actually different than what you really need. And Sarah taught me that sometimes if you get ahead on early in your break and you say, I'm actually going to spend my first day or two getting my stuff together so that I can actually breathe and rest these next couple of weeks. Ironically, the first thing you might want to do is plan. You actually might want to say, I want myself in 2 weeks to say, thank you so much, Brad, 2 weeks ago for
Mhm.
setting me up, because I was able to actually turn it off and step away and rest. So I just love that story about Sarah. And I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, but for me, that preparation, she taught me a really key life lesson, which was sometimes being prepared actually gives you the opportunity to rest. Whereas I might have carried that stuff all night long. I might have been staying
Mhm.
up late, getting up early. She made me be on it. And that planning, that proactivity is actually what allowed me to rest. And sometimes that's not what we hear.
Exactly. And I want to add to, you said several of them that are my favorites, and some of them I've utilized them for myself
Mm,
and as a mentor teacher to beginning teachers that I mentored several through the years. But digital detox, oh my goodness. We could take a whole 2-3 hours just to do that. We tell the students to put it away, but then we're like, put that phone away while we're in our phone. Um, I think that that is huge, and I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because it is just the light in and of itself is overstimulated, and it is meant to send you down a frenzy of 1 and 2 hours before you know it, and your mind can be very easily overstimulated. So thank you, Brad, so much for sharing that beautiful story. My mentor teacher, and I'm gonna say this and I'm not gonna cry, but my mentor teacher, I had two. One was Jennifer Kreiner, which was my school mentor, but my other mentor was from the district, which was a new initiative from with that they partnered with ECU. Her name was Ann Dale Booth, and she taught me a lot of those. And uh, she passed away year before last, about two
mm,
years now.
mm.
And excuse me, but she taught me a lot of those things. And then my clinical teacher, of course, Nakia Williams, taught me a lot, and my practicum teacher, Stephanie Austin. Yes, we're name dropping on this Christmas Eve because we can do that.
Yep.
But taught me a lot about organizing, taught me a lot about utilizing the your time effectively, so that you can walk your dog, enjoy your wife, and things of that nature. So thank you so much, Brad, for sharing those and giving those personal perspectives, and shout
Mm.
out to those special teachers, because you made me have to do the same thing for Christmas Eve.
I love it. They deserve it too. If they could hear it every day of the year, that'd be even better. Sarah changed my life in so many ways, and she's still as a part of the journey with me 20 years later, and is a dear friend. So I hope to maintain those relationships, and I'm sure you try to as well.
Yes.
So all right. So with these next 3 minutes, do you want me to? Can I go deeper into any of these? Where do you want me to go
You
next?
certainly can. I just need about a minute. Leave me about a minute to take us into our break. But yes, have at it. You've touched my heart. Keep
Let's
going.
go. All right. So the first one, a mentor. For me, this is one of the most powerful. There are some times where we lose perspective, right? We have these narrow focus areas on the day to day, on the momentary needs of children or teachers, the people around us, and that's great. But sometimes we just need to be taken out of that context. And so sometimes I want to call one of my mentors, and I just want to, or I'm going to have a coffee with them, or bring them some bread that we can break together, and just they will take me into perspective and history. So my 98-year-old grandmother is that person for me, and she's still living on her own. She's a very special human. I cannot
Yes.
wait to see Zell. She's a very special human. And when I'm there, my stress is gone because she's got 100 years of wisdom that is going to just flow out of her. And so
Mhm.
mentors can help us to regain perspective when we've lost it. And that can be so energizing and so grounding.
And
So
this
that's one
was
of
the
those
teacher,
perspectives.
right? She was the teacher,
She
your
was not. That
grandmama.
was another grandmother. So I'm telling you, I come from powerful, beautiful women who have led the way for me and opened doors in ways. Zell is a really, really special lady, and she teaches me a lot every time I'm with her. So find a mentor. Like, who is that in your life? And if you don't have one immediately available, we have a lot we can read from too. So like, who are some mentors that you can read from? Do you want to open up something from Ella Baker and remember how it is that when she was interacting with SNCC and she was working in the civil rights movement? Like, Ella Baker is one of the most inspiring Americans that I've ever read. Her mentorship lives on through just the things that I can read about her and I can watch too. So even if that mentor isn't a part of your life, you can still learn from them. Let's do one more. So that's one. And then you just got to make room for some joy. Like you listen to the two of us just having fun. I can feel the dopamine. I can feel the rush in my body. Like there's something about a belly laugh, and we got to give ourselves some room for joy. So you might think, man, I just need to slow down. I'm going to go watch some TV, but that may not actually be restful. And what can be more restful and fulfilling is just a belly laugh with your friend Tonitia. So that's a reminder, is to look for what is it that gives you that kind of belly laughing joy, and find a way to make that happen as much as you can over the break.
Absolutely. That is such a beautiful Christmas Eve gift, Brad. So we're going to tell the people, don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show on Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM, where we make K-12 education everyone's business. While taking pride on being Christmas helpers. We'll be right back after this short message. Welcome back to this Christmas Eve edition of Awesome Radio 107.5 FM and 1570 AM WECU, promoting educational equity for the families in our listening and viewing community. I'm the host, but you and the community mean the most, and would love for you to share some of your topic ideas with us here. And you can email us at letstalkk12education@gmail.com. Guys, on this Christmas Eve, Brad is just showing off. I'm here to tell you, like, we haven't hardly did anything. So many things that I want to cover, but this is just beautiful the way it's supposed to be. I'm giving these gifts to our educators on this Christmas Eve, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So we've got about 19 minutes. Brad took us there, kind of took us to church. I'm going to let him pick up and continue to take us to school. So, Brad, I'm handing the mic over to you.
Thank you. All right, let's do it. So when I think about where we left, there's one point I didn't get a chance to make, which is I think our culture has a narrative about self-care, right? We hear that phrase left and right. You turn on a commercial tonight, you're probably going to hear self-care. You go onto your Instagram or whatever it might be, you're going to hear something about self-care. And I love that we're starting to pay more attention to that. I think about my grandfather when he was working on that farm as a seventh grader. Nobody was considering his self-care. So we have made some progress, and sometimes self-care is not the care that you need. The way that our culture tells us to self-care is not always the thing that we need. And so this list is meant to break down a little bit more and make you think and expand your options a bit for what might actually care for that self that's so important here versus just the things that we hear in our culture. So let's be careful. Let's be skeptical about what our culture sometimes tells us. So we talked about a mentor. We talked about finding that belly laughing joy. We talked about a digital detox, being able to step away from your computer, your phone for a day, 2 days, 3 days, an entire week if you can. You will feel physically different at the end of that. And then you can build it back in the way you want, right? So that's another piece. Those are the things that may not look or sound like self-care, and they really are. So, all right, another one we haven't talked about yet is reflect. So I don't know if do you have a journaling habit? Do you even own a journal?
Do I?
Yeah,
I do sometimes on my phone, and sometimes I do just jot,
I'm
as stuff comes to me.
I love, I put notes in my phone, and that's been the way that I can do it because I'll have a thought and I just need to write. But then there's moments where when I just take out a pen and I actually write my thoughts, there's something very calming and meaningful about that process. And, I'm a child of the 80s myself. And so maybe it's a little bit more comfortable for me compared to some of our younger teachers maybe these days. But there's something powerful about taking a moment to actually just write and reflect. And there's plenty of tools out there for that. So that's what I think about, is that actually taking some time to process and just let some of those feelings and thoughts flow is a really powerful exercise.
Very powerful.
Another one, connect. So we've talked about all these beautiful people in our lives. Connect with them, right? This is the time where maybe you just want to be not busy. And maybe you're even a little anxious about, man, I want to see that person, but also now I've got to plan a thing. I got to show up. I got to do my hair. And you just want to be, okay, I hear that. And sometimes that connection with somebody that means something to you, whether they're a mentor or not, can be a really powerful energizer. And so who are some of those people that while you have been giving so much of yourself and serving in these roles in our schools, who are some people that you haven't seen as much as you want to? Who's that auntie that you haven't seen in a while? Who's that neighbor you haven't stopped by and talked to? And it could be virtual connections. We have all these tools today for that. But ideally, who can you go see, in flesh and blood and break some bread? So connect, find your people, make those opportunities that you don't always have when you're busy serving in a school.
That's so true, Brad. I want to insert there with one of my clients that I do some consulting for. We actually had a virtual Christmas party yesterday. And when I say there was live music, there were games, there were riddles. We had beverages. It was beautiful. So a lot of, like it says, we need to utilize those and making those connections, because we not only have a business relationship, but we have a personal board of directors relationship. And it just, you talked about endorphins earlier. I cried because it was a release, because we do get so busy pouring from our cup.
Yep.
And a lot of times we do not get our cup filled.
Exactly.
Poured into.
We have to, and you can't pour from an empty cup. And so you've got to find those ways. And if it's connecting, if it's planning, for me, I need a little bit of everything on this list. So I love, it's like at Thanksgiving, if you see me, I'm going to make sure I have a bite of every single thing on my plate. In the same way for these 12 things, you're going to see me doing each of these.
Absolutely.
So I love that. All right, well, let's keep going. So we've got the next two are learning and resting. And on one of those, I got an amen from you before, because I think there's something about rest that I actually mean sleep in one day. Don't schedule anything until 10:30 a.m. one day. Just, we were going to go out and do this. Nope, that's it. Tomorrow morning is just a slow morning. You need to give yourself slow time to just rest. And your body may tell you, your family may tell you what it is that you need after that rest. So literally just slow down a minute and be careful not to do it too quickly. If you go from fast to slow, it's almost like if you've been on a treadmill and you just turn it off, you can trip and fall. So sometimes you gotta slow it down a little bit gradually, but take some time to rest. For me, what's really energizing and healing for me and my wellness is actually learning. I bet, I'm not exaggerating, I bet I'm reading 4 different books right now. I'm one of those guys that I jump from this one to that one. And if I'm in a mood to learn right now, I'm going to read this book. And right now, you know what? That's not the brain that I want to turn on. I'll go pick up my other one. And there's something energizing to me about new ideas, about getting inspired, hearing others thinking. So for some of us, you got to pick up a good book. And if you're not sure where to start, talk to some of those connections and reach out, because sometimes learning can be really energizing, healing, and a gift to you and your wellness. So love that one.
Lifelong learning, lifelong learners.
For me,
it's
not a drag. Like, that's why most of us got into this. Like, we love to teach, but we also love to learn. And sometimes we think we just need, some Netflix and some hot cocoa over this winter break, but really reading a good book that helps us to grow some part of our mind, or listening to a good podcast that might teach you something different could be a really powerful exercise. Listening to 2 wonderful people on a radio show about K-12 education might be a place that brings you up, right? And
shameless plug. I love it, Brad. I love it.
Give yourself that gift of learning, because it can be really energizing. So our last few, we had serve and gratitude. And ironically, sometimes by serving others, you can actually get energized, right? You talk about how it's better to give than receive. And you have been giving so much of yourself in one context, but sometimes actually giving and serving in a different one can be really powerful. And so our family, over this holiday, break, we're going to make sure to spend some time in service. And that can be really powerful and grounding. And it brings you back to your purpose. It brings you back to why we're here on this planet in the first place. And we do it every day, but it's in one context and it's our job. And when you find another place and a venue for that, it can be really powerful. So the next one, gratitude. if you haven't tried a gratitude practice, you can just journal for a day. You can just do this once in your phone and be done. You can pick up the phone and just call somebody and say, thank God for you. I
Yes.
appreciate you. I see you. This is how you changed my life.
Hmm.
Expressing that gratitude is even more powerful. But a
Yes.
gratitude practice, research wise, practically, it has a big impact on us. And so find a moment to express some gratitude to one person, to yourself,
Yes.
to the children that you might not even, share these thoughts with. Express some gratitude, and it will change how you think and feel.
It does. And Brad, out of your list, what is really appealing to me there is so practical. It's like right there in your toolbox. Like it makes it so equitable. Everything that you talked about, you don't have to have a lot of money. It just means you have to take the time to do it. If you have a phone, even if you need to go to the library. So your list is so impactful. If you can hear it in my voice, it really has released a whole lot, and I've done some of that. In fact, can't wait until I go through my phone and actually startle some people and say, I haven't heard from them.
Right.
Let me just check in, because you just be surprised at what some people are going through. Educators, K-12 educators, families of our K-12 educators, and the whole 9 yards. So, Brad, what I'm going to do to tie everything in that you just did, just warm my heart on this Christmas Eve, is we talked about how your love of reading and learning. And so on the K-12 education show, I'm actually going to do an on-air read aloud. And I'm going to model this because I'm hoping sometimes maybe some of the families in our the educators and the families and the stakeholders in our viewing and listening audience can take some of these tips to prevent some learning loss during this K-12 break. So buckle up, grab your coffee, grab your cocoa, lean in and listen. And this is the Christmas Eve gift, a story of an educator's wellness. On Christmas Eve, as the snow gently blanketed the rooftops and twinkling lights danced in the windows, Mrs. Carter, a dedicated fourth grade teacher, sat by her fireplace with a steaming cup of cocoa. The warmth of the flames contrasted with the icy chill outside, but her heart felt heavy. The semester had been long and exhausting, filled with endless lesson plans, parent conferences, and the challenges of meeting each student's needs. As she started at the glowing embers, Mrs. Carter's mind raced with to-do lists for the next term. But then a gentle knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find no one there, only a small, beautifully wrapped gift box with a tag that read, "To Mrs. Carter, a gift of wellness." Curious, she brought the box inside and opened it. Inside was a letter handwritten in elegant script. Dear Mrs. Carter, you give so much to others, your students, your school, and your community. This Christmas, we ask you to give yourself the gift of wellness. And here's how. Number one, rest. Take these next few days to truly unplug. The world can wait while you recharge. Number two, joy. Spend time doing what makes your heart light, whether it's baking cookies, reading a novel, or laughing with your friends. Reflection. Remember the impact you've made. Think of the smiles, the aha moments, and the lives you've touched. And gratitude. Be kind to yourself as you are to others. Celebrate your strengths, forgive your mistakes, and embrace your humanity. This Christmas, let the Christmas gift be to yourself a renewed spirit and a peaceful heart. Merry Christmas, your guardian of wellness. Mrs. Carter smiled, her eyes welling up with tears. She placed the letter on her mantle and sat back down by the fire, feeling a new sense of calm. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to rest. This gift of wellness wasn't a luxury, It was a necessity. That night, as she drifted to sleep, she imagined her students returning after the holidays. They would have a teacher who was not just prepared, but also present, joyful, and ready to give her best. And so on that quiet Christmas Eve, Mrs. Carter gave herself the greatest gift of all, the permission to care for herself. What you think about that story? That
Whew.
Christmas story.
One, that is exactly what Miss Carter needed, right? Like there's just something special about the words that were shared there. I also noticed there's a little bit of overlap between the guidance given there and what I was reflecting on before too.
All of it.
Some of these things are just, they're timeless. They're capital T truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the kinds of things that are just true about what it is that we need. And I think especially for the servants out there, for the people
Mm-hmm.
who give their lives in the service of others, to also, like you said before, we got to fill up those cups. So I feel, yeah, I felt every word of that. I wanted to give her a hug half of the story.
And what about to the people that just said, "Hey, this is what you need"? And a lot of times, Brad, we know as these purpose, passion-filled people like ourselves, we know what needs to be done. We know it. But sometimes it doesn't always mean that we have a plan of action and carry through. So, on this Christmas Eve, on this giving yourself the Christmas gift of wellness as an educator, to hear it, I'm hoping that it sinks in for them. So before we get ready, we got about 4 minutes. I want to tie our families into this too. So before we continue our show with the gift of educator wellness for Christmas Eve, let me give you some ways to prevent learning loss during the break for your children, as well as supporting the wellness of the educators in your children's lives, just like the ones for Miss Carter. So during this break, take a few moments to do some reading and writing activities, family reading time. I just modeled a read aloud, so you can do some of that. Math activities, you can bake some holiday treats, play board games, do holiday themed math puzzles and riddles. Again, don't wear them out because you want them to enjoy it, but we don't want them to come back totally lost because of learning loss. Science activities, conduct holiday themed science experiments. So you can make homemade slime, create a volcano, grow some crystals for Christmas, go on a nature walk, watch science-related TV shows. For social studies, learn about different cultures and traditions. We start our show off with Mr. Brad telling us about his shirt and his time in Japan, and the very interesting article at the top of his tree. Expose your babies to something new so that we can help our educators out when they come back off after Christmas break. Create a family tree, play travel games. And, as we have technology, make it more than just practical. Use some educational apps and websites, code a holiday themed program, create a digital holiday card. A lot of things that Brad mentioned were very practical things that could be right at your grasp. You've got paper, you've got pencil, you've got a TV. You can do some of these activities. And again, don't wear your babies out. Don't wear yourselves out because you need to rest like our educators. But that's just some quick things that you can do so that there's not so much learning loss during the holiday K-12 holiday break. Brad, come on in. What you think about that?
I just took 2 notes from my own children on that. So I was like, man, I can't remember the last time I grew crystals. And I know that's
Uh-huh.
something you can do as simple as like sugar, water, and I think some string. And so I was like, how
Mm-hmm.
much fun would that be? I'm looking outside right now at 6 inches, maybe 8 inches of snow. That's why I've got my hat on, my sweater. We got a
Wow.
bunch of snow, but learning about those little crystals, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
ask your children too, like, ooh, like what shapes are in there? And there's so many conversations that we could have in that. So as soon as you mentioned that, I was like, oh, I'm doing it. And then we'll probably do a writing activity, and I think it'll be a
Yes.
fun one where we'll
Mm-hmm.
tell like a family story. If you've ever done
Mm-hmm.
this, you have, maybe I'll start and I'll write the first couple sentences. Then you pass the paper to the next person in the family, and they have to continue the
I
story.
love it.
Man, that one is a silly one. It's a
It,
fun one.
it is
Um,
fun. It
It's a
is
great
very
activity.
fun. It is very fun. You end up with some pretty interesting, some pretty interesting stories doing that. So, Brad, you have been amazing. Thank you for joining our episode today on the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show. We hope you enjoyed. Give yourself this Christmas gift of wellness as an educator discussion and found inspiration in it. A special thank you to my wonderful guest, Mr. Brad White, for sharing his insights and expertise. Your contributions truly brought depth, and we're grateful for your dedication in helping shape healthier, more supportive educational environments. So listen, we got about 50 seconds. Do you have any parting words on this Christmas Eve?
We only missed our last two thoughts. So I said, hey, pray or meditate and move. And those are the only other two things that I didn't talk about. I want you to take care of yourself, and sometimes moving your body, getting your blood flowing. Oh my goodness, that can feel good. So put on your roller skates, go sledding if you've got it, get yourself moving. And if you need to take some time to pray, to meditate, and slow yourself down, find one of those 12 things, find 5 of those 12 things, and please take care of yourself.
Thank you for those parting words, Brad. So thank you for tuning in today on Awesome Radio WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM from the Let's Talk K-12 Education Show. We are wishing you, our listening and viewing community, a very Merry Christmas. Until next week, you guys have a very Merry Christmas one. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.